interactive Central and Eastern Europe Festival, presented by Orange, driven by Toyota Hybrid, in association with Xaxis.
Now, before we actually begin the discussion, let's do a quick round of introductions. Piotr, you can get it started so that everybody in the room actually knows who you are and what you're doing. As a very brief summary, please.
Piotr Marzec. I represent DoubleClick brand within Google Solutions.
Hi, Mark Walker from IPG Media Brands, representing Cadrin, our agency trading desk.
I'm Zoltan from Group M Hungary, and I'm sort of special guy because I'm not regional, I'm rather local, but you know.
Jan Heumüller, representing Europe for the Datazu programmatic marketing platform.
I'm Frederick Leuschner, representing Programmatic in new markets.
I have my own, so I'm Elias Gagas, Managing Director for Tailwind, among other things. We are pioneering local country publisher alliances under the brand name of Project Agora. So in order to kick it off, and let's do sort of a ping-pong game, so Frederick, you get started on that front. Looking back at your year, what has been sort of, you know, the main challenge? What you would be some of the key elements of what last year looked like for you personally, for Programmatic?
Well, I work across the Nordics, Southern Europe, and Eastern Europe, so every market for me has different, let's say, nuances. I think especially in markets that are, let's say, Eastern European markets, I think my key challenge was really to, or let's say, initiatives were to further evangelize those markets, to really convince publishers that actually programmatic is much beyond just a remnant play. It is really just much beyond just pure RTB, and that they should understand all screens and understand to segment their audiences. And so that's what I've been doing. I would say 50% of my external facing activities.
Well, actually what we've seen over the last year is that there's been a broad realization in the industry that programmatic is much more than a trend, but it has to be something which is deeply integrated into the company's and advertisers' strategy. Over the last year, we did a lot of learning and educating on advertisers as well as agencies, and still, we are not there. So there is a recent report of Forrester together with the ANA Association that 67% of advertisers still don't know what programmatic is. They feel they need to learn more or don't understand it. So I think it's all about education, but it has become better, and the realization of advertisers that it's something really about their strategy is already there.
When I was seeing your numbers or figures, I was wondering that it is not Hungarian data, although maybe it was included.
We do have Hungarian responses within the overall data.
But I see Hungarian landscape rather pessimistic towards this. So the challenge what we are experiencing there is that although some of the majority of the clients may say that they understand programmatic, but then it turns out that they don't. So even they can say that we do, but in reality they don't. So once they say that RTB is programmatic and it equals, then there is a problem of understanding. Of course, it's there. What we have experienced is that in number of pitches, recent pitches, programmatic evolved to an important part of the pitch, although clients are not really knowing what they are asking for, but they want to include this into the pitch material. And then, of course, if it's a regional or even an EMEA pitch, then what you experience is that sometimes Hungary is not fitting to these circumstances, or things are not provided there. Even from the client side, data technology is missing. Maybe some of the agencies are not ready for this challenge. And of course, the inventory, what is accessible, not only in Hungary, but sometimes in the CE region, is quite limited because the structure of the inventory is not mature yet.
So, similar to Frederick, my role is multi-regional, so my challenges are quite specific to various markets. I oversee Latin America, Central Eastern Europe, Nordics, as well as Southeast Asia. But if I had to look at commonalities across all those different markets, the ecosystem, I know the data suggests it's becoming a lot more mature, and that's fantastic, but it's still relatively fragile. And so the promise of being able to really deliver the capability that we've been talking about is still not there. And so getting everybody to collaborate, publishers, data partners, technology partners, is still a challenge. So I think one of the benefits of being a follower is that we can see where it's all going, but the challenge is we want it all there today. And on the client side, the other challenge I'm having is clients are definitely willing to try programmatic, but the experiences they're having is still underwhelming. And so it's really a case of managing those expectations and sort of taking them down the journey and being realistic about what we can do today and ultimately where we're going to end up.
Okay. And as I work with multiple countries as well, I can see clearly that there are absolutely different speeds and different situations across countries. And the research was quite interestingly showing a specific moment that this whole almost CE is at. And for sure, like right now, the UK, US, they are fighting with absolutely different challenges on the same. Like, for example, already like video is a huge trend there. This is the big thing. They're discussing like TV in this case. And for us, the huge challenge, for example, within this year was like establishing PMPs, like working on a private marketplace, direct deals, including like starting with dynamic ads. These were our like regional challenges. But I believe like the biggest challenge that we face across all our markets in Central Europe, doesn't matter which country we are, is a challenge of having the right people to work on this. So absolutely different skill set required, and not only on the execution part, but also in thinking about the programmatic. Okay, so if an advertiser decides to go to programmatic, probably heard a lot, like you could see a lot of case studies even coming from other countries that already use this as something absolutely normal. So everybody wants these results, but still there's something to catch up in terms of education, how best to plug into this. So I was not quite surprised when I saw the questions about performance, not enough performance from programmatic. Yes, we see that. Like there's so much overpromise. It's going, all these case studies with beautiful numbers. So everybody thinks that if he tries this, the results are guaranteed almost. But to make this happen, there's much more in something that you need to work on than just start using the technology to do bidding for you. It's much more complex. So the education was the biggest challenge that we had, and it's something that we will continue to invest in.
It definitely makes sense, and I definitely like your approach. The research is sort of a snapshot in time, and we essentially capture, the declaration of the person responding. For sure, I have a similar point of view. I mean, even though the percentages look great on paper, what lies beneath them might be a completely different story. So sort of going backwards from you, Piotr, since you mentioned that one of the biggest challenges that you faced was essentially the human element. So, okay, we have the technology, but now we need the people to actually understand what the technology can do. We need the people to ask the right questions, as we have heard during the presentations. Can we do another round and actually get your biggest challenges at this point in time? So what would be the biggest thing that ideally or not so ideally right now hinders the adoption or the proper adoption of programmatic?
Okay, so from my point of view, we're looking for the right partners. So picking the right people to work with is half of the success. Yes? If you have the right agencies and you provide them the right technology, training, knowledge, and they have this something, towards testing and learning, investing in this new area, you got already a success. but from the more like down to the point perspective. Okay, we've been working on private marketplace development. This touches both sides, like sell and demand side. They work together on this. We already been working on dynamic ads. This is becoming and should become a standard at some point. The new biggest challenge is video, which also gets like both sides. Like sell side need to provide this, buy side need to address this demand at pace that will provide the sell side with budgets that are paying back for this. So this is the biggest challenge, like enabling video buying on programmatic. Because for now it's not much. It's YouTube and not many other partners to buy from, and not many campaigns still able to use this ability, connect the video buying with the power of data, allowing to precisely pick the right audience.
So it's a tough one to pick what is the hardest challenge, because I just feel like there's so many. I think a common theme for me is just going back to education. I think everyone sort of mentioned that at one point or another. And what goes hand in hand with that is trying to bust all the myths that exist with all the different components. On the publisher side, the publishers are still, they're wanting to embrace programmatic, and a lot of them have started to, but at the same time they're not doing it properly. So they're not seeing the results, and therefore they're skeptical. So there's a lot of education required there. Same in the data space. It's understanding what data you can collect and sell, and the fact that you're not giving away a data that's going to compromise you selling your other inventory. And then on the technology side, I think a lot of our clients are starting to test single platforms or running RTB campaigns, and sort of ticking the box, yes, we have access to programmatic or RTB, but not really looking beyond that and saying, well, there's a lot more that goes into that. So I think I certainly spend most of my time around education. When we run campaigns for clients and there are spectacular failures, I actually tend to celebrate. No one else does, but it's part of the learning curve. We need to fall many, many times, and then we'll start setting up campaigns properly and running the way we need to be running them. So I would say definitely education. The way we're trying to tackle that, we've actually recently built a team of instructional designers within our group, and we're developing training material that we can basically share with publishers, share with clients, and really just try and get the knowledge to the level that it needs to get to.
So I can agree that we have several challenges, but let's just name one. It is the data layer. So, okay, demand side more or less exists. Supply side, let's say so that it exists, but then the data layer is completely missing, or almost completely. So no third-party data, or not really available. And then first-party data, they are somewhere out there. Clients have them, but they don't know what to do with them. They don't really have it structured way, so no data management platforms or nothing. Therefore, it is also missing. So this is the situation where it's hard to prove that the programmatic way of doing this is really performing better. Without data, it won't, because it's just done really an automatized way of IO-based solutions. And my fear is that we will experience, especially in Hungary, that, okay, we will have programmatic, but it will be IO-based, majority, 50, 70%, that is just made via systems, but without data.
Well, actually, I like what you all said, and I don't want to stress the education thing again, but we found ourselves very often in situations where advertisers as well as agencies tend to be threatened by the complication of the things. Everybody knows the Luma landscape or other landscapes in the market, and they think, wow, that's massive, I can't get even my head around it. Who is doing what? How can I get started in programmatic? And I need to look at least 10 different technology or service providers out of the Luma landscape in order to really set it up successfully. So actually our approach is you could use one integrated stack. Try it on your own as an advertiser, or have your agency trying it for you on your behalf on your technology of choice, and then start it in one market, start it with one product, get your learnings, and 100% agree you will fail several times, but there's no learning without failing. And if you're not getting it started, you won't be able to make it better. So this is something we really see, and where we try to educate advertisers actually to really get it started with one player, and you can diversify or improve certain areas such as data management or special supply later on. But don't start it too complex. It's pretty straightforward. And when you start it, try to actually put out and ask the right questions to your technology supplier or your agency when it comes, for instance, to transparency, or when it comes to features and learnings, insights you can generate out of your programmatic buying.
So I don't have a lot to add, but there are other things which we haven't discussed yet. Is also legislation and new trends like ad blockers, right? These are, and standardization of ad formats. For instance, in the Nordics and Sweden, you have massive ad formats which are really scalable across the region. So that prohibits international trading, which is sort of a blocker as well, because everything is very much IAB standard format, IAB restricted. And that ad blocker, if I believe statistics, that has an impact of X billion dollars a year on Google's revenue. So that will also have an impact not only on Google but on the entire, let's say, industry, right? If that becomes a successful way of business. One point I want to just expand. It goes also into a trend. It goes back to the education piece. So what we see is two trends. One, there are publishers who want to do it themselves, which are usually publishers who are quite sophisticated, have programmatic teams, and then we have publishers do it for me. Yeah. So. And that coincides a little bit with the level of maturity in markets. So like in France, you may be aware of Laplace, let's say the Laplace model, where they build a marketplace. But interestingly, in that market, actually, publishers go away to do it now themselves, because the marketplace did exist there for a few years. And now they've gained the level of experience. Programmatic becomes a relevant revenue source, and now they do it themselves. So versus in Eastern Europe, we see marketplace development. So for us, it's a big challenge as well, because we need to address both ways of pitching our proposition.
Makes sense, excellent. And we've been through the downturn. We've discussed the challenges. Let's pick up the pace a bit, and what would you consider, let's say, during last year, your crowning achievement, something that you're really proud of, something that showcased, all the things that are good about programmatic? Whether you want to make it as a general, assessment, or if you have a specific case study or specific project that you would like to share.
I pass it to the middle first. To break the rule a little bit.
To the middle, yeah. Well, I really have to be local in that sense. So in Hungary, it is a great achievement, not for Group M, but for all agencies that or participants, that it is existing already, the programmatic landscape. So yes, Cadron started last year in Hungary. Group M started this year. Other agencies will follow or not. We will see. And the great evolvement is that the publisher side is starting to start now with the marketplaces. So they are not finishing, but just starting. So therefore, we expect that inventories will be much more available, much more structured in a way that we can match data to that, therefore prove that programmatic is really an efficient way of buying and operating this kind of stuff.
I think for me and probably for media brands is really just been completing the rollout of our global capabilities. So we now have capability in all our emerging markets. Of course, with that comes a bunch of headaches as well. But we have the basic infrastructure in place, and we have teams. They're learning, they're getting experience, they're engaging with publishers, they're talking to clients, and we have clients testing programmatic. So I feel like we have a footprint now, and it's a case of really moving into a refinement and optimizing that and really making it work in every market that we run.
In our case, the challenge and the biggest achievement, I think, it was having a presence everywhere around CE and getting the right partners, like Cadron, for example. So providing the technology to the right people and scaling the business. That's one. But we always like to focus on how the product is developing. We always love, new things. And in here we had a really huge developments. In case of US markets, even like GRPs integrated. In case of the worldwide solution with the cross-device targeting, cross-device measurement. And locally, for CE, in our case, the biggest achievement was address actually the missing piece with the programmatic market, the data piece. So Google released all the data that we have on demographics, interest, lookalike modeling tools, and in this case also there are new possibilities to use first-party tools to buy from other third-party providers. We built a whole ecosystem of data providers, country by country, and we're actually actively looking for anyone who is willing to provide the data for our buyers. And we're plugging in one by one in an extreme pace right now. So like the whole piece that was missing, I would say even 1 year ago, is now in. The data is here. Like in terms of our platform, this is fixed.
So as we are all salespeople, sometimes it's nice when you sell your dream that actually the dream has some reality. So that makes me personally very happy. So when I preach, let's say, all the benefits, all the solutions that we're having, sometimes you do get a positive feedback from a customer, actually that works. That makes me very happy. So other than that, I think it goes back to Piotr's point that as I'm dealing or managing all new markets for Programmatic, Nordics, Southern Europe, and Eastern Europe, and the Middle East, our biggest achievement actually to get a footprint in those new markets. Not only that we are doing business, we open up offices as well. We are now acting as a new markets, emerging markets team, and it also shows not only we want to do that, no, there is an opportunity and publishers jump on the train also in these markets.
Yeah, actually something we are proud of at Datazo is the massive growth we had during the last year, including the foundation of a new and emerging market team, looking after the CEE markets, as well as being able to educate clients, help them on their way to really understand how to increase their marketing ROI by adding a lot of analytics and science to this business. Such as clients as Vodafone or Ford, which are using Datazo not only as a programmatic marketing platform, but as a partner who helps them to understand how to allocate their media investments across every channel. And on the other hand, actually something we are very proud of from a technology point of view is the last week's Forrester research on DSPs, where we've been nominated as the #1 in terms of current and strongest current offering in the market, which is also like showing how much efforts our product development and engineering team put into the development of our platform.
Okay, so I think we sort of have a consensus here that, we have either a solid platform or a solid platform being almost finished in order to run and conduct business. So for each of you, what would be sort of, the key focal point for what's going to happen next year? So what are you going to be focusing on as you move ahead into the next 12 months?
I think this is a kind of differing from market to market in a way. So actually here it's, for instance, growing the supply we are bringing into the platform on the one hand, and continue on education to have advertisers and agencies really getting started with testing and learning about how programmatic can help them. And in other markets, such as the US, the next big thing we are working on, and which is already running through the platform, is connected to TV. So there is not one answer, this is what's going to be happening now, because this is also differing from market to market.
For us, it will be driving the programmatic display landscape to a certain point where we can say that yes, it's up and running. We definitely will have to deal with this data problematic we experience in Hungary especially. And then as for Group M, we will have to launch Zaxis and some other services or products that we are already offering in other countries or in the region in order to be able to competitive.
I think for me, just looking at our markets, it's really going to be now shifting to the client. We have good infrastructure in place to do what we need to do. The ecosystem will grow. There's only so much we can do to grow it. I think there are a lot of clients that have tested programmatic and they're still on the fence. But the good thing is there are a lot of clients that have taken a much broader view. They've engaged their global teams to do global studies on what is possible and what is capable. So I find the more conversations I'm having now is around global programmatic strategy. You know, understanding how airlines like Cathay Pacific or Coca-Cola can really look at programmatic strategy across multi-markets. So I think that's for me what's probably going to happen in the next year or so, is that clients are going to get more serious about it. They're going to get more strategic about it. They've learnt a few hard lessons along the way, so they're going to you know, obviously use that and move forward in a big way.
For us, main focus will be, I'd say, on breaking the silos. Because we think about the programmatic in much bigger scope than just display, just one of the piece of the marketing mix. So the huge challenge is actually to activate the data across all the channels, bring them together, measure accordingly, optimize. And the buzzwords that we want to invest in are the attribution modeling. This is the one. Data activation, this is the second one. So clearly, this is an educational challenge, yes, and we're going to absolutely address this. And the goal is just to break the silos and start thinking about your goals and marketing as a way to get there, not as a separate channels, and distributed among multiple, sometimes partners, agency. Like, we believe that this all should be brought together. One thing is technology, the other thing is strategy. Usually it means one really good partner to run this kind of activities together.
For Programmatic, I believe the biggest challenge, or let's say focus area for 2015 and 16 is going to be to become what we call a programmatic ad server. What it means is building programmatic capabilities on top of an ad serving solution for cross-device, for mobile video and desktop, and new formats like also all emerging media, be it audio, be it TV, and so on. And I think this is where the industry is heading to. Ultimately, everybody's working, like building, let's say, point solutions, be it Rubicon. Google is always a great orientator. What they're doing is usually right, even though they move like a, let's say, a whale, right? And but this is a good indicator, I think, where the industry is going. And Programmatic, as a fully publisher-focused company, obviously will prioritize its development towards the needs of any media company, on the publishing company.
Okay. So let's wrap it up with a game that we started playing during this same panel last year, and it goes a bit like that. First of all, we're going to cater now to the local needs, to the people that are actually in the audience. And I'm sure that one of the major things that they expect from us is to share the knowledge and actually provide them with some tangible, things to follow or not to follow. So I would ask each of you to give us 2 commandments. One, sort of a thou shalt, you should do something, and one, thou shalt not, you shouldn't do something. So please specify to whom you're addressing that. Is it going to be towards the demand side or the supply side? And give us your two commandments, what they should and they shouldn't be doing, moving ahead within programmatic.
So if you're a publisher, I'm talking to you right now, like unify your programmatic team, or your sales team, your display sales team. Don't silo a programmatic sales team and, let's say, a display sales team. Unify them as one. That's organizationally quite important. Then I bring in now a few buzzwords. Understand also all screens and segment your audiences. And if I may add, a third one is also consider the whole value proposition of programmatic. It's not only a solution for remnant inventory, like another, let's say, monetization provider, go up the stack, and also consider programmatic as a solution for direct sales, be it via PMPs or automated guaranteed.
Yeah, I would actually address this to the demand side, so to advertisers and agencies. And I think I already said that 2 or 3 times now, but really get started. Do it on your own, or do it with by using a technology on your own, or do it by actually having your agency using the technology on your behalf. Challenge the one who's actually operating on your behalf if you're not operating by yourself, in terms of areas such as transparency, and how much actually your provider will help you to solve the business questions and the business problems you have, and get it started. Don't be demotivated by not seeing results from day one off. You will get better, you will generate learnings, and everything which you can measure, you can actually optimize. This is good news. And what you shouldn't do is not ask the right question, not challenge your partners, and believe all the bullshit that's out there.
I would address the advertisers, so the demand side. Especially with one, do not think about programmatic as another word for cheap, because it's not the question of the price, but it's a question of the efficiency that lies beyond or behind it. Do structure and do use the data you can get, access from yourself within the structured organization, where we experience that advertisers do have data, but they don't know where it is and who has the command of it. So you cannot access, although there it is.
I think on the demand side, the do would be just test it. Someone else mentioned that already. Just put programmatic on your plans and test it. If
just do it effectively.
Kind of, yeah. I think, but with the expectation that you're going to fall and you're going to learn, and you're never really going to be able to embrace programmatic unless you do. It's a complex channel. It's not 100% safe, but it requires that first absolute step. So the don'ts is don't be frozen by the complexity. Just get in and try it.
Okay. So from me, for agencies, hire the right people to do the job with an absolutely new skill set. Focus on the people who get the numbers. This is the one. For advertisers, I would say think about your attribution model. Okay, how you can think differently about the things you're doing, not just the last click or not just the very simple KPIs working right now, but sorry, you have to go to analytics. Okay, and you shall not. I would say you should not bore people to death with the same ad over and over, okay, without thinking who you sending this ad to. So it's not TV with a 30-second spot that needs to get to everybody probably 10, 20 times a day. It is programmatic. It's place that you can actually use the audience insight to change the communication, to adjust different communication to different groups of consumers based on simple things like who they actually are or how they interacted already with your product. So that's for me.
I think we have a new scroll coming in over here, so.
Goes back to my Google heritage. So, like learn, we call them walled gardens, like Google or Facebook or others, right? Don't just lean back and be happy about the check that you receive at the end of the month from Google. Understand, really make an effort to understand. I'm not saying don't work with Google, would be quite drastic to say that. No, learn for what solutions you work with the big players, tech companies like Twitter, Google, Facebook, but also develop your own capabilities to evaluate what are the point solutions that you bring in. In other words, develop the expertise as the do and the don't at the same time.
Okay, that's it as far as sort of predefined questions on my end. Is there anything else that you would like to ask? So, the floor is yours. We have 5 very knowledgeable and experienced people here. So are there any questions from the audience towards them? Nothing at all. Okay. So with that, thank you very much, all of you for the participation, all of you for spending the good part of the day with us. I believe Programmatic is here to stay. We have a consensus on that. And feel free to reach out to all of the participants for an offline discussion should you have any additional questions. Thank you very much.
Interactive Central and Eastern Europe Festival, presented by Orange, driven by Toyota Hybrid, in association with Xaxis.